Hey y'all, I'm out here trailside. It's toasty out here at almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and I wanted to talk to y'all about climbing. More so, one of the best ways that you can change how you climb and keep your stamina a little bit longer. There was a girl that recently joined the Ride Life team, and she talked about how she felt like she was being left behind on her group rides. She wanted to help her breathing, and she wanted a tip to change it tomorrow. Well, a lot of times, whenever we talk about fitness, it's something that you gain over time, your endurance. It slowly increases. And honestly, that just sucks because it takes so long and you feel so bad in that meantime. Now, first off, people want to ride with you, they want to ride with you. If you're on a group ride that's labeled beginner or intermediate and you're like basically at that level, just a little bit below, then that's okay. It's okay to be less. There has to be somebody that is, and it's going to float with different times, different people. So don't feel terrible about that. Now, it can mean that you want to change it. And that's perfect. That's where some of my programs come in and things like that. Well, to help you right now for your next ride, the thing I need you to do is to pace yourself. Now, pacing it's hard because you see everybody else leaving you on the hill. And what you have to do is you have to stop. You have to not pace forward. You have to not try to go as hard as you can for as long as you can. That's where it's hard because you're actually trying to go slow. You're trying to go at a slower pace than what is typical. And that is hard because in your brain you say, I need to push. Well, your body says, I need to go slower. And so as you're pacing, one of the biggest things that you get out of it is that you don't tire out quite as quickly. This means that you can go longer in between rest breaks. It also means that whenever you actually do take a rest break, you probably won't be as tapped out. You won't be as tired. And so whenever you are pacing yourself, you're going slower up the hill, then that means that if you start to get where you feel like you might need a break, then take a break, put your foot down, rest for a bit. It can be more like 5 to 10 seconds instead of like a minute. Whenever you are so wore out, you're breathing hard, you're draped over the front part of your bike, and you're just done. This is how you actually gain time. Because when you go slower and you don't need as many rest breaks or you don't need as long of rest breaks, you actually end up going faster. It's kind of the tortoise and the hare analogy. The tortoise just kept on going at a slow pace and eventually won the race. Well, the hare went fast and stopped and fast and stopped and fast and stopped. Let's be the tortoise a little bit more. And so as you're going up these hills, you're like, well, Liz, my hills are just too big. They're too punchy. I can't go slow. I get tapped out no matter what. How slow are you actually going? And this is where I bring a little bit of my story in. So I'm hypermobile and I dislocated my collarbone from my sternum. It's a rare injury that doesn't typically happen to people, except for me. I was stand-up paddling on the ocean. I didn't even have a mountain biking wreck or anything crazy like that. It was crazy that I didn't stand up paddling on the ocean. Anyways, and so I couldn't have where my breath got where I was like really breathing from the front and top part of my rib cage. And so every ride I had to go excessively slow. And I knew about pacing before, I knew about endurance rides before, but this made me do it. It put it into purpose where if I started to go into where I was starting to breathe heavier, I had to stop or I had to go slower. And so I would basically do like mini track stands as I was going up these hills. Slow as you go. And literally my endurance increased as I was going so slow. And I know if you're watching this and know about endurance training, you're like, well, duh, it increased. Well, if you don't know about endurance training, it kind of is an eye opener. And it really beat down into me the importance of zone 2 and easier miles. That one, it didn't tax your system quite as much. And two, it really worked on your ability to stay in that lower zone for a longer period of time. The reason why it's great to pace yourself and why you want to stay in that lower zone is because, as I mentioned, it doesn't tax your system as much. And so as you go into where you're breathing harder, you have what I call a battery. And if you're in the lower zones where you're not breathing as hard, you're plugged into the wall. As you go higher into those heavier, harder zones where you're breathing heavy, that battery, it slowly depletes. It's a battery. You only have so much goes with you, and it's finite. Well, every time you take a rest break, you get a little bit of that battery back, but you don't get the full battery back. You rely a lot on what you have in the lowermost zones, in the zones where you're not breathing hard, where you can say more than 2-word sentences, where you can talk and have a conversation. That's where you are plugged in. You have a lot of time available to ride and to just move in that zone, zones plural. And so as you're in those zones, you want to grow how big that zone is, and slowly you'll get faster in that zone without having to pitch into your battery zone. And so doing these slower pacing miles where you're actually probably going to be faster as a whole, you'll actually gain more endurance. And so I challenge you on your next rides, go out, go slow. See if you can actually make it more of the hill before you have to stop. And when you do have to stop, how long does it take you to recover? Are you stopping in time where you can recover quicker? Try those out, and it will drastically change your riding and also your endurance and how you are doing your training or even riding. I hope this was super helpful. If you're interested in more training programs, check out the Ride Life membership. Its link is down below in the description. And I'm going to get on with the rest of my ride out here in this hot heat. Subscribe if you want more information or videos like this. Cheers, y'all.